We gathered here today to honor the memory of our ancestor, John Washington Middleton. At his birth, our country was a young nation. Only 32 years had passed since the forefathers declared our country's independence. Just 19 states made up the Union, Tennessee being one of them. On the 3rd day of January, 1808, John was born in Maury County, Tennessee, to Drury and Martha Tubb Middleton. Both of his grandfathers had served their country fighting in the War of Independence, and because of that, John was extremely proud of bearing the name Middleton and being the namesake of his father, the first John Middleton. He was born so long ago that none of us had the opportunity or pleasure of knowing him. John was a man who lived in an earlier time and a much different world. What a great thrill it would have been to share in his experiences on the early frontier, to sit by a campfire while John related his stories of danger, intrigue, and adventure in his life in those early days of our country. Although we didn't know John, we do know from his writings that he was a dedicated husband, a loving father, community member, and lifelong lawman and patriot. In his writings, he told of many gallant deeds of his father and grandfather. He thought it was important to carry on their traditions. On one occasion, John wrote, "This much I have thought proper to mention in relation to my ancestry, that it may be seen that I have inherited love of country and devotion to her laws, and now in the closing years of a long life, fulfilled with peril and adventure among scenes wild and civilized, in society of every sort, in peace and in danger, I have sought only to be worthy the brave and patriotic men who had gone before, and by devotion to my country, upholding its laws and advancing the best interests of society, in endeavoring to sustain its morals and religion, to deserve the name I bear." I had mentioned earlier that John was very proud of what his grandfathers had done in serving in the Revolutionary War. I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the things that his grandfather had done. His grandfather John had served in the Revolutionary War as a cornet in Lee's Legion, commanded by General Light Horse Harry Lee. Two of the most important battles he fought in were the Battle of Cowpens and the Battle of Gulliford Courthouse. John's most famous exploit was written about in numerous books and carried out under the direct orders of General George Washington and Major General Light Horse Harry Lee. After the desertion of General Benedict Arnold from his command at Fort West Point, Middleton was ordered to take a detachment in mock pursuit of James Champ, who was falsely labeled by both Washington and Lee as a traitor. In a cloak and dagger effort to capture Arnold before he could reach the British lines, it was one of America's first clandestine military operations. Our great-grandfather John was only 4 years of age when his father, Drury, went off to war and served under Andrew Jackson in the Creek War of 1812. He fought at the battles of Talladega, Hickory Ground, Heights of Mufaw and Mufaw Creek, the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, and the Battle of New Orleans. At the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, he fought alongside Sam Houston, who later became the President of the Republic of Texas. Now we'll go back to John. On December 15, 1831, while living in Maury County, Tennessee, John was married to Mary Ann Chalk. She was born April 12, 1810 in North Carolina near the mouth of the Chowan River. They had 13 children, just a regular-sized family in those early years. John and Mary, along with their first two children, Nathan and Martha, left Tennessee in the autumn of 1834 and moved to Marshall County, Mississippi. At that time, the land was part of the Chickasaw Indian Territory. In 1836, it would become the state of Mississippi. While living here, their third child, Drury, was born. While living in Marshall County, John and Mary operated an overnight stage stop, known at that time as a house of entertainment. The stop was located on the pike leading from Nashville, Tennessee to Holly Springs, Mississippi. Dissatisfied with his business affairs, John soon decided to try his fortune in a new country. On the 15th day of June, 1837, he and his family landed in the Republic of Texas and settled in Shelby County, just a few miles from a stretch of land known as No Man's Land, or the neutral strip bordering the Sabine River. This land knew no laws. Neither the U.S. nor Mexico had claimed ownership. Fugitives from justice, thieves, cutthroats, and murderers roamed this entire area along the border of the new republic. We're going to have a pause. After the Texas Revolution, Texians were more dependent upon Rangers than ever before. The ranging men had been organized by Stephen F. Austin in 1823 and served as needed throughout the War of Independence. By the war's end, the Texas Treasury was empty and the Texian Army was disbanded. In 1838, President Mirabeau B. Lamar appointed 56 men as captains of the Texas ranging companies. These ranging companies were called by several names: mounted volunteers, mounted gunmen, mounted riflemen, spies, and Minutemen. Their mission was to range the frontier, protecting settlers from Indian raids and lawlessness. Periods of service varied from a few days to several months. Pay was poor and often consisted of promissory